Lily Carter had always been different from the other kids in her small town. While most teenagers spent their evenings watching TV or hanging out at the local diner, Lily preferred the quiet company of the stars. Every night, she would climb to the top of the hill behind her house, carrying her old telescope and a notebook filled with scribbled observations about constellations and planets. It wasn't just a hobby for her. It was an escape. At school, she often felt like an outsider, too shy to make friends and too focused on her studies to care much about fitting in. On this particular evening, the sky was unusually clear. The air was crisp, and the stars seemed brighter than ever. Lily adjusted her telescope, peering through the lens to get a closer look at a cluster of stars she had been studying for weeks. As she jotted down notes in her book, a faint green glow caught her attention. At first, she thought it might be a trick of the light, or perhaps her imagination playing games. But when the glow appeared again, stronger this time, she knew it was real. Curiosity tugged at her, pulling her away from her telescope. She grabbed her flashlight and followed the source of the light, weaving through the tall grass and trees that surrounded the hill. The forest was eerily quiet, the usual chirping of crickets and rustling of leaves replaced by an almost unnatural stillness. Her heart raced as she moved deeper into the woods, unsure of what she might find. The glow led her to a small clearing, where she stopped dead in her tracks. There, lying on the ground, was something she could never have imagined. It looked like a dragon, but not like any dragon from the fairy tales she'd read as a child. Its body shimmered with iridescent scales that changed colors depending on how the light hit them. Green one moment, blue the next, and then a deep purple. Its wings were folded tightly against its sides and its long tail curled around its body. What struck Lily most, though, were its eyes. They were large and luminous, filled with an intelligence that made her feel both awestruck and uneasy. At first, Lily didn't move. She stood frozen, clutching her flashlight so tightly her knuckles turned white. The creature let out a soft whimper, snapping her out of her trance. She took a cautious step forward, her mind racing with questions. Was it hurt? Was it dangerous? Should she run back home and call someone? But something about the way it looked at her, a mixture of pain and trust, made her stay. "Hey there," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The creature didn't respond, but its gaze softened, as if it understood her words. Slowly, Lily crouched down, keeping her movements deliberate and calm. She shone her flashlight over its body, trying to assess its condition. That's when she noticed the injury. One of its fangs, sharp and curved like a saber, was cracked and discolored. It looked decayed, almost as if it had been rotting for some time. The sight made her wince. As someone who studied dentistry, she knew how painful such a condition could be. "You poor thing," she murmured, inching closer. "Let me repair your decayed tooth." She wasn't sure why she said it. Maybe it was the absurdity of the situation, or maybe it was her way of trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Either way, the words seemed to have an effect. The creature tilted its head slightly, its luminous eyes locking onto hers. For a brief moment, Lily felt a strange connection, as if the creature was communicating with her without speaking. Realizing she couldn't leave it there, Lily stood up and glanced around the clearing. She needed supplies, something to clean the wound, maybe even tools to fix the damaged fang. But more importantly, she needed to figure out how to help without scaring it off. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a granola bar she had brought along for her stargazing session. Breaking off a small piece, she held it out cautiously. "I don't know if you can eat this," she said softly. "But here. It's all I've got." To her surprise, the creature sniffed the air, then gently nudged the piece of granola with its snout before eating it. Encouraged by the gesture, Lily smiled nervously. "Okay, that's a start. I'll be right back. I promise." She hurried home as quickly as she could, grabbing a backpack and filling it with whatever she thought might be useful: bandages, antiseptic wipes, tweezers, and a small flashlight. She also packed some leftover chicken from dinner, hoping the creature might find it appetizing. By the time she returned to the clearing, her heart was pounding, partly from exertion and partly from fear that the creature might be gone. but it was still there, lying exactly where she had left it. This time it didn't seem as wary. When Lily approached, it lifted its head slightly, watching her with those piercing eyes. She knelt beside it, setting the backpack down carefully. "All right, big guy," she said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "Let's see what we can do." Over the next hour, Lily worked methodically, cleaning the area around the damaged fang and examining it closely. The creature flinched occasionally, but it didn't resist. If anything, it seemed to relax under her touch, letting out soft, rumbling sounds that reminded Lily of a purring cat. As she worked, she couldn't help but marvel at the creature's beauty. Its scales shimmered even in the dim light, and its presence was both intimidating and awe-inspiring. When she finished, she sat back on her heels, wiping sweat from her forehead. "There," she said with a sigh. "That's the best I can do, for now. We'll need better tools if we want to fix that properly." The creature blinked slowly as if acknowledging her efforts. Then, to her astonishment, it lowered its head and nudged her hand gently. It was a simple gesture, but it meant everything. In that moment, Lily knew she had formed a bond with this mysterious being, one that went beyond language or logic. As she packed up her supplies and prepared to leave, she glanced at the creature one last time. "I'll come back tomorrow," she promised. "We'll figure this out together." Walking home under the starlit sky, Lily couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. She had always dreamed of encountering something extraordinary, but she never imagined it would be like this. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive, as if the universe had finally taken notice of her. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of an adventure that would change her life forever. The next morning, Lily woke up with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Her mind was buzzing with thoughts of the dragon-like creature, Zephyr, as she had started calling it during her walk home the previous night. The name just seemed to fit, soft and airy like the breeze that had carried her back from the forest. She couldn't wait to return to the clearing and continue helping Zephyr, but first, she needed to gather more supplies. After grabbing a quick breakfast, she rummaged through her room for anything useful. She found an old first aid kit, some tweezers, and even a small magnifying glass she used for inspecting fossils. She also packed more food, some apples, cheese slices, and crackers, hoping Zephyr would find them edible. As she stuffed everything into her backpack, she paused for a moment, staring out the window at the distant hills. What if someone else found Zephyr before she got there? Or worse, what if Zephyr decided to leave? Shaking off her worries, Lily hurried outside and made her way back to the forest. The path seemed longer this time, each step heavy with anticipation. When she finally reached the clearing, relief washed over her. Zephyr was still there, lying quietly among the trees. It lifted its head slightly when it saw her, its luminous eyes lighting up with recognition. "Hey, Zephyr," Lily said softly, kneeling beside the creature. "I brought you some stuff. Let's see if we can make you feel better." She began by offering the food she had brought. Zephyr sniffed cautiously at the apples before nibbling on one. Encouraged by its reaction, Lily tried handing over a slice of cheese. To her surprise, Zephyr gobbled it up eagerly, letting out a low rumble that sounded almost like a laugh. Watching the creature eat reminded Lily of how different yet familiar it felt. Despite its otherworldly appearance, Zephyr had moments of vulnerability and curiosity that made it seem almost human. Once Zephyr had finished eating, Lily turned her attention to its injured fang. Using the magnifying glass, she examined the decayed area more closely. It was worse than she had initially thought. The crack ran deep and the surrounding tissue looked inflamed. Without proper tools, there wasn't much she could do beyond cleaning the area and applying antiseptic. Still, she worked patiently, talking to Zephyr as she went. "You know," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves, "you're not so scary once you get to know you. You're actually kind of cute." Zephyr tilted its head as if considering her words. Then, in a gesture that took Lily by surprise, it gently nudged her arm with its snout. It was a small action, but it filled her with warmth. For the first time in her life she felt truly connected to something or someone outside herself. As the days passed, Lily visited Zephyr every evening after finishing her schoolwork. Each visit brought new discoveries. She learned that Zephyr communicated not through words but through images and emotions projected directly into her mind. These visions were fleeting but vivid, showing glimpses of a distant planet with towering mountains, shimmering oceans, and skies painted in hues of gold and violet. Lily realized these must be memories of Zephyr's homeworld, a place far beyond Earth's reach. One evening, as they sat together under the stars, Zephyr shared a particularly powerful vision. Lily saw flashes of fire and chaos, entire cities, crumbling under relentless attacks. She felt waves of sadness and anger, emotions so intense they brought tears to her eyes. When the vision faded, she looked at Zephyr, understanding dawning on her face. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Zephyr responded by resting its massive head on her lap, a gesture of trust that left Lily speechless. In that moment, she vowed to do whatever it took to help Zephyr heal, both physically and emotionally. But their peaceful routine was soon disrupted. Rumors began spreading around town about strange sightings in the forest. People claimed to have heard eerie roars late at night or seen glowing lights hovering near the hills. At first, Lily dismissed these stories as mere gossip, but her concern grew when she noticed unfamiliar cars parked along the road leading to the forest. Someone was paying attention, and she knew it wouldn't be long before they stumbled upon Zephyr. Her fears were confirmed when Jake Monroe, a local journalist known for his nosy nature, started asking questions. Jake was a tall, lanky man, in his mid-20s with a mop of unruly hair and a camera slung around his neck. He had always been eager to uncover secrets no matter how trivial, and the idea of an alien sighting was too tempting for him to ignore. Lily first encountered Jake at the grocery store, where he was interviewing residents about the alleged phenomenon. She tried to avoid him, keeping her head down as she grabbed a loaf of bread and hurried toward the checkout counter, but Jake spotted her and called out, "Hey, aren't you Lily Carter?" Caught off guard, Lily turned slowly, forcing a polite smile. "Yeah, that's me." "I hear you spend a lot of time stargazing out near the woods," Jake said, his tone casual but probing. "Have you seen anything unusual lately?" "Nope," Lily replied quickly, clutching her bag tighter. "Just stars and trees, nothing exciting." Jake raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "Well, if you do see anything, let me know, okay? This could be big news." Lily nodded stiffly and walked away, her heart pounding. She knew she couldn't afford to draw any attention to herself, not while Zephyr was still recovering. That night, she confided in her Uncle Sam, a quiet man who lived alone on the outskirts of town. Sam had always been supportive of Lily's interests, often lending her books about astronomy and biology. When she told him about Zephyr, he listened without judgment, his expression thoughtful. "You need to keep it safe," Sam said simply. "If people find out, they'll only cause trouble. Trust me, I've seen enough nonsense in this town to know how things work." With Sam's help, Lily devised a plan to protect Zephyr. They decided to move it to a secluded cabin deep in the woods, far from prying eyes. The journey wouldn't be easy, especially given Zephyr's size and weakened state, but it was their best option. Over the next few days, Lily prepared for the move, gathering blankets, food, and medical supplies. She also spent hours reassuring Zephyr, explaining her plan through gestures and soothing words. On the day of the move, Lily arrived at the clearing early in the morning. Zephyr greeted her with a weak but affectionate nudge, sensing her nervous energy. Together, they set off toward the cabin, moving slowly and carefully to avoid detection. The path was rough, and Zephyr struggled at times, but it never complained. Instead, it leaned on Lily for support, trusting her completely. By the time they reached the cabin, the sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow over the landscape. Lily helped Zephyr settle inside, arranging blankets to create a comfortable resting spot. Exhausted but relieved, she sat beside the creature, stroking its shimmering scales. "We made it," she said softly. "You're safe here, Zephyr. I promise." Zephyr let out a contented sigh, its eyes closing as it drifted off to sleep. Watching it, Lily felt a mix of pride and determination. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she knew she would do everything in her power to protect her newfound friend. Little did she know the hardest part of their journey was yet to come. The days at the secluded cabin passed quietly, but Lily could feel the weight of responsibility growing heavier with each passing moment. Zephyr was healing, slowly but surely. Its cracked fang no longer looked as inflamed, and its movements were becoming stronger. But there was something deeper troubling the creature, something Lily couldn't quite put her finger on. It wasn't just physical pain, it was a sadness that lingered in its glowing eyes, a heaviness that even its telepathic visions couldn't fully explain. One evening, as they sat together by the fire, Zephyr shared another vision. This time, it was clearer than before. Lily saw vast fields of shimmering crystals, towering spires of light, and skies painted with colors she couldn't name. The planet felt alive, humming with energy and life. But then the scene shifted. She saw explosions, fires consuming entire landscapes, and creatures fleeing in terror. Among them were beings like Zephyr, dragon-like aliens with wings and scales. But they were few, their numbers dwindling. The vision ended with a single image, a glowing core embedded deep within Zephyr's chest, pulsating faintly, like a heartbeat. Lily gasped, clutching her chest as if the emotions from the vision had seeped into her own body. She turned to Zephyr, her voice trembling. That's your home, isn't it? What happened there?" Zephyr didn't respond directly, but another wave of images flooded Lily's mind. She saw a war, a brutal conflict between two powerful species. One side sought control of the Valith, Zephyr's kind, because of their unique ability to harness energy from the cores within their bodies. These cores allowed the Valith to fly faster than sound, communicate across great distances, and even heal themselves. But they came at a cost. Over time, the cores would poison their host unless carefully maintained. The other species wanted to extract these cores for their own use, destroying the Valith in the process. Lily's heart ached as she pieced everything together. Zephyr wasn't just injured, it was dying. The decay in its fang was a symptom of the core poisoning its body. Without intervention, it wouldn't survive much longer. She stared at Zephyr, tears welling up in her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she whispered. "I'll do whatever it takes to help you." Zephyr nudged her gently, its expression softening. Through another brief vision, Lily understood that Zephyr hadn't wanted to burden her. It had hoped to heal on its own, to return to its people before it was too late. But now, stranded on Earth and growing weaker, it needed her more than ever. Determined to find a solution, Lily spent the next few days researching everything she could about energy systems, radiation poisoning, and advanced biology. She scoured textbooks, online articles, and even old science fiction novels for inspiration. She knew the problem was far beyond anything she'd studied in dental school or astrophysics classes, but she refused to give up. Every night she worked tirelessly by candlelight, sketching diagrams and jotting down ideas in her notebook. Her breakthrough came unexpectedly. While flipping through a book about rare minerals, she stumbled upon a description of a substance called luminite. It was said to neutralize toxic energies and stabilize unstable compounds. According to the text, luminite deposits were incredibly rare, found only in the deepest parts of Earth's crust. Most scientists believed it was nothing more than a myth, but Lily clung to hope. If she could find even a small amount of luminite, it might be enough to save Zephyr. Excited yet overwhelmed, Lily confided in her Uncle Sam. He listened intently, his weathered face creasing with concern. "If this mineral exists," he said slowly, "it won't be easy to get to. The places where it might be found are dangerous and heavily guarded." "Guarded?" Lily asked, frowning. Sam nodded. "There's a military research facility not far from here. They've been digging deep into the earth for years, looking for resources. If luminite is real, they might already have some." Lily's stomach churned at the thought. Breaking into a government facility sounded impossible, maybe even suicidal. But what choice did she have? Zephyr's life depended on it. She thanked Sam for his advice and returned to the cabin, her mind racing with plans. Over the next week, Lily prepared meticulously. She mapped out routes to the facility using satellite, images she found online, memorizing every detail. She gathered tools and supplies, including rope, gloves, and a flashlight. She also practiced sneaking around at night, honing her ability to move silently and avoid detection. Each step felt like walking a tightrope, but she pushed forward, driven by desperation. Meanwhile, Jake Monroe continued his investigation, growing bolder with each passing day. He had set up cameras near the forest, hoping to capture footage of whatever was causing the strange sightings. One afternoon, while reviewing the recordings, he spotted something extraordinary, a massive shadow moving through the trees, accompanied by a faint green glow. His excitement was palpable. Finally, he had proof that something, or someone, was out there. Jake wasted no time alerting local authorities. Within hours, news of a potential extraterrestrial phenomenon spread like wildfire. Reporters descended on the town, eager to uncover the truth. Military personnel arrived shortly after, setting up roadblocks and scanning the area with advanced equipment. The once quiet hills were now swarming with activity. Lily watched all of this unfold, from the safety of the cabin, her anxiety mounting. She knew it was only a matter of time before they found Zephyr. Desperate to buy herself more time, she decided to act quickly. That night, under the cover of darkness, she set out for the research facility, leaving Zephyr behind with a promise to return. The journey was grueling. The facility was located deep in the mountains, accessible only by a narrow, winding path. Lily moved cautiously, avoiding patrol vehicles and security cameras. Her heart pounded with every step, but she forced herself to stay focused. When she finally reached the perimeter fence, she paused, taking a deep breath. Scaling the fence was risky, but she had no other option. Once inside, Lily navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the facility, relying on instinct and luck. She encountered several close calls, guards rounding corners, alarms blaring in the distance, but somehow managed to evade them all. Finally, she reached a restricted area marked mineral storage. Slipping inside, she scanned the shelves until she found what she was looking for, a small vial labeled luminite. Clutching the vial tightly, Lily retraced her steps, her adrenaline spiking as she neared the exit. Just as she was about to climb back over the fence, a spotlight blinded her. A voice shouted, "Stop right there!" Panic surged through her veins, but Lily didn't hesitate. She sprinted toward the woods, dodging bullets and shouts as she disappeared into the shadows. Her escape was messy and chaotic, but she made it back to the cabin alive, collapsing onto the floor in exhaustion. When Zephyr saw her, it let out a low rumble of concern, nudging her gently. Lily smiled weakly, holding up the vial. "I got it," she panted. "Now we can fix you." Using the luminite, Lily created a makeshift treatment. She mixed it with water and applied it directly to the area around Zephyr's core, massaging it gently. Almost immediately, Zephyr's breathing steadied, and its scales began to shimmer brighter than ever. The poison was receding, giving way to renewed strength. As dawn broke over the horizon, Lily sat beside Zephyr, watching as it stretched its wings for the first time in days. She felt a surge of pride and relief, knowing she had done everything she could to save her friend. But she also knew their time together was running out. Zephyr was getting stronger, and soon it would be ready to leave. For now, though, they rested together, two unlikely companions bound by trust and determination. The challenges ahead were daunting, but Lily faced them with courage, knowing she had already achieved the impossible. The days that followed were a blur of tension and urgency for Lily. Zephyr's condition had improved dramatically thanks to the luminite treatment, but the danger surrounding them only grew worse. Military vehicles now patrolled the roads leading to the forest, their spotlights cutting through the darkness like knives. Helicopters circled overhead, their rotors chopping at the air with relentless persistence. It was clear that the authorities were closing in, and Lily knew they wouldn't stop until they found what they were looking for. Jake Monroe was at the center of it all. His discovery of the glowing shadow in the woods had sparked a frenzy, turning him into an overnight sensation. Reporters flocked to his side, eager for updates on the alien mystery. Jake basked in the attention, giving interviews and speculating wildly about what, or who, might be hiding in the forest. He even suggested that the creature could pose a threat to national security, fueling public fear and justifying the military's aggressive response. Lily hated Jake more than ever. She couldn't believe how careless he was being, putting innocent lives and Zephyr's existence at risk. But she didn't have time to dwell on her anger. Every second counted, and she needed to act fast if she wanted to keep Zephyr safe. 1. Evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily sat by the fire outside the cabin, staring at the distant glow of searchlights. Zephyr lay beside her, its massive body silhouetted against the flames. The two of them had grown inseparable over the past weeks, their bond stronger than words could describe. Lily felt a deep ache knowing they might soon have to part ways, but she pushed the thought aside. For now, her focus was on survival. "We need to move," Lily said softly, breaking the silence. "They're getting too close." Zephyr tilted its head, its luminous eyes meeting hers. It understood. Together they began packing up their meager supplies, blankets, food, and the remaining luminite vial. Lily also grabbed her old telescope, a small token of the life she hoped to return to someday. As they prepared to leave, she glanced around the cabin one last time, committing every detail to memory. This place had been their sanctuary, a refuge from the chaos outside. Leaving it behind felt like saying goodbye to a piece of herself. The journey ahead was perilous. They would need to navigate dense forests, cross rivers, and avoid detection by patrols. Lily wasn't sure how far Zephyr could travel in its current state, but she refused to leave it behind. If they were caught, they would face whatever came next together. Under the cover of darkness, they set out, moving slowly and carefully through the trees. Zephyr's wings were still weak, so it walked alongside Lily, its claws making soft, crunching sounds against the forest floor. Despite its size, the creature moved with surprising stealth, blending seamlessly into the shadows. Lily marveled at its grace, feeling grateful for its resilience. For hours, they trudged onward, stopping occasionally to rest or listen for signs of pursuit. The forest was eerily quiet, the usual chirping of crickets and rustling of leaves replaced by an oppressive stillness. Every snapping twig or distant shout made Lily's heart race, but she forced herself to stay calm. Panicking wouldn't help them now. By dawn, they reached the edge of a steep ravine. Below them flowed a wide river, its waters glinting silver in the early morning light. Crossing it would be risky, but it was their best chance of throwing off any pursuers. Lily scanned the area, searching for a safe path down the rocky slope. Her eyes landed on a narrow trail winding along the cliffside, barely visible beneath the thick foliage. "This way," she whispered, pointing toward the trail. Zephyr nodded, following her lead. The descent was treacherous. Loose rocks tumbled underfoot, threatening to send them plummeting into the river below. Lily gripped Zephyr's scales tightly, using them as handholds whenever the path became too precarious. At one point, the creature slipped, sending a cascade of pebbles tumbling into the abyss. Lily froze, holding her breath as the noise echoed through the valley. When no alarm sounded, she exhaled shakily and urged Zephyr to keep going. Finally, they reached the riverbank. The water rushed past them, cold and unforgiving. Lily waded in first, testing its depth before signaling for Zephyr to follow. The creature hesitated, clearly uneasy about entering the water. But with a reassuring nudge from Lily, it stepped forward, its powerful legs carrying it across the current with surprising ease. By the time they reached the opposite shore, both of them were soaked and exhausted but alive. As they collapsed onto the muddy bank, catching their breath, Lily spotted movement in the distance. A convoy of military trucks was approaching the ravine, their headlights cutting through the mist. Panic surged through her veins as she realized they hadn't escaped yet. Grabbing Zephyr's claw, she pulled him to his feet. "We can't stop here," she said urgently. "We need to keep moving." They pressed on, weaving through the wilderness as fast as they could. The terrain grew rougher, the paths narrower and steeper. Lily's legs burned with exhaustion, and her lungs ached from the constant running. But she refused to give up. Every step brought them closer to freedom, or so she hoped. Just as the sun began to rise, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, they stumbled upon an abandoned farmhouse nestled in a secluded valley. Its roof was sagging and its windows were boarded up, but it offered shelter from prying eyes. Lily led Zephyr inside, collapsing onto the dusty wooden floor as soon as they were safely hidden. For a while they rested, listening to the distant hum of helicopters fading into the background. Lily leaned against Zephyr's warm body, finding comfort in its steady breathing. Despite everything they had been through, she felt a flicker of hope. They had survived another night, and that was something worth celebrating. But their respite was short-lived. Later that afternoon, Lily heard voices outside, a group of soldiers combing the area for clues. She held her breath, pressing herself flat against the wall as footsteps echoed on the porch. Zephyr tensed beside her, its tail twitching nervously. For several agonizing minutes, they waited in silence, praying the soldiers would pass by without noticing the house. When the voices finally faded, Lily let out a shaky sigh of relief. But she knew this couldn't go on forever. Sooner or later, they would run out of places to hide. They needed a plan, a way to end this chase once and for all. That night, as they huddled together in the dark, Lily made a decision. She couldn't keep running. If they stayed on Earth, Zephyr would never truly be safe. There was only one solution. She had to find a way to send Zephyr back home. The idea terrified her. How could she possibly accomplish such a feat? She was just a dental student with a love for stargazing, not a scientist or an engineer. But she remembered the visions Zephyr had shared with her. The towering spires, the shimmering oceans, the skies filled with light. That was where Zephyr belonged, not here on Earth, trapped in a world that didn't understand it. "I'll figure it out," Lily whispered, stroking Zephyr's shimmering scales. "I promise." Zephyr gazed at her, its eyes filled with gratitude and trust. In that moment, Lily felt a surge of determination. No matter how impossible the task seemed, she would do everything in her power to make it happen. Because Zephyr wasn't just a creature, it was her friend. And friends didn't give up on each other. With renewed resolve, Lily began brainstorming ideas. She scoured the farmhouse for anything useful. Old tools, scraps of metal, anything that might help her build some kind of device. She also spent hours sketching designs in her notebook, drawing inspiration from the visions Zephyr had shown her. It was a long shot, but she clung to hope, knowing that sometimes the most extraordinary solutions came from the simplest beginnings. As the days passed, Lily worked tirelessly, driven by a sense of purpose she had never felt before. She didn't know if she would succeed, but she knew one thing for certain. She wouldn't stop trying. Not until Zephyr was safe. Lily's days at the abandoned farmhouse became a whirlwind of activity. Every waking moment was dedicated to finding a way to send Zephyr back home. She knew it was a monumental task, one that seemed almost impossible for someone with her limited resources and knowledge. But she refused to let doubt creep in. Instead, she focused on the little things, the small victories that kept her moving forward. Her first step was gathering materials. The farmhouse was old and crumbling, but it still held treasures hidden in its dusty corners. Lily found scraps of metal in the barn, rusted tools in the shed, and even an old generator in the basement. She scavenged everything she could, dragging her finds back to the main room where she worked late into the night. Her hands were calloused from handling rough materials, and her clothes were stained with grease and dirt, but she didn't care. Each piece brought her one step closer to her goal. Zephyr watched her tirelessly, its luminous eyes following her every move. It couldn't help physically, but it offered support in other ways. Through telepathic visions, it shared memories of its homeworld, images of advanced technology and intricate machines designed to harness energy. These glimpses inspired Lily, giving her ideas about how to construct something similar using Earth's crude tools. She started by sketching out a device based on what she had seen in Zephyr's visions. It looked like a mix between a satellite, dish, and a power generator, with coils of wire spiraling around a central core. The idea was simple. If she could create a stable energy field strong enough to open a portal, Zephyr might be able to use its own core to amplify the signal and guide itself home. Of course, there were countless variables she couldn't account for. Would the energy field collapse? Could Zephyr survive the journey? But she pushed those fears aside. There was no time for hesitation. The hardest part was figuring out how to power the device. Luminite was key, but the tiny vial she had stolen from the military facility wasn't enough. Desperate, Lily turned to her uncle Sam for help. She sneaked back to his house one evening, explaining her plan in hushed tones. To her relief, he agreed to assist without asking too many questions. He rummaged through his garage, handing over batteries, wires, and an old solar panel he had been saving for years. "It's not much," he admitted, "but it's all I've got." With Sam's supplies and her own ingenuity, Lily pieced together a makeshift power source. She connected the solar panel to the generator, rigging it to charge during the day and store energy at night. Then, she carefully embedded the remaining luminite into the device's core, hoping it would act as a catalyst to stabilize the energy field. It was far from perfect, but it was the best she could do under the circumstances. As the days passed, Lily grew increasingly anxious. Military patrols were getting closer, their search expanding deeper into the wilderness. She could hear helicopters hovering nearby and see flashes of light from spotlights cutting through the trees. Each noise sent her heart racing, forcing her to work faster. She barely slept, surviving on short naps and quick meals of canned food scavenged from the farmhouse pantry. Finally, after weeks of relentless effort, the device was ready, or as ready as it would ever be. It stood tall in the center of the farmhouse, its wires and coils glowing faintly in the dim light. Lily stared at it, her chest tight with a mix of hope and dread. This was it. The moment of truth. "Are you ready?" she asked Zephyr, her voice trembling. Zephyr nodded slowly, its expression unreadable. It stepped closer, lowering its head, until it was level with hers. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, neither speaking nor moving. Then Zephyr nudged her gently, as if to say thank you. Taking a deep breath, Lily activated the device. At first, nothing happened. She fiddled with the controls, adjusting dials and flipping switches, her hands shaking with nerves. Just when she thought it wasn't going to work, a low hum filled the air, growing louder and louder until it vibrated through the walls of the farmhouse. Sparks flew from the machine, illuminating the room in bursts of blue and white light. Lily shielded, her eyes squinting against the brightness. In front of her, a swirling vortex began to form, pulsating with energy. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once, a gateway to another world. Zephyr stepped toward it, its body shimmering with excitement. But before it could enter, Lily grabbed its claw, stopping it in its tracks. "Wait," she said, tears streaming down her face. I need to say goodbye." Zephyr turned to face her, its large eyes soft with understanding. Lily hugged it tightly, burying her face in its warm scales. "Thank you for trusting me," she whispered. "For letting me help you. I'll never forget you." Zephyr rumbled softly, wrapping its tail around her in a gentle embrace. Then, with one final glance, it stepped into the vortex. The energy surged violently, sending waves of heat and light rippling outward. Lily stumbled backward, shielding herself as the portal collapsed in on itself, leaving behind only silence. For a long time she sat there, staring at the empty space where Zephyr had disappeared. Her heart ached with loss, but she also felt a strange sense of peace. She had done everything she could to protect her friend, and now it was finally safe. That thought gave her strength. The next morning, Lily packed up her belongings and left the farmhouse. She knew staying any longer would be dangerous, so she headed back toward town, keeping to the shadows to avoid detection. When she arrived home, she found her uncle waiting for her, worry etched across his face. "I heard the soldiers are pulling out," he said cautiously. What did you do? Lily smiled faintly, exhaustion written all over her features. I sent him home. Sam didn't ask for details. Instead, he pulled her into a tight hug, holding her as she cried quietly. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to feel the weight of everything that had happened. The fear, the pain, the joy. It was overwhelming but also freeing. Over the following days, life in the town slowly returned to normal. The military withdrew, citing a lack of evidence to justify their continued presence. Jake Monroe tried to keep the story alive, but without proof, interest faded quickly. People went back to their routines, dismissing the sightings as mere rumors or hoaxes. But Lily couldn't forget. Every night she climbed the hill behind her house and gazed at the stars, wondering if Zephyr was looking at them too. She missed her friend deeply, but she also felt grateful for the experience. It had changed her in ways she couldn't fully explain, opening her eyes to the vastness of the universe and her place within it. One evening, as she adjusted her telescope, she noticed something unusual, a faint green glow flickering among the constellations. It was brief, lasting only a second or two, but it was unmistakable. Lily's heart skipped a beat. Was it Zephyr? Or perhaps a message from its people? She didn't know for sure, but it didn't matter. What mattered was the connection she had forged, an unbreakable bond that transcended distance and time. Smiling softly, she whispered into the night, "Goodbye, Zephyr. Thank you for showing me the stars." And with that, she turned her attention back to the heavens, ready to explore the mysteries they held. Weeks turned into months, and life in the small town settled back into its usual rhythm. The excitement over the mysterious sightings had faded, replaced by mundane routines and everyday concerns. For most people, the strange events of the past season were nothing more than a distant memory, a story told around dinner tables and forgotten just as quickly. But for Lily Carter, everything had changed. She returned to her studies with renewed focus, pouring herself into both dentistry and astrophysics. Her professors noticed the shift in her attitude. She was no longer the shy, awkward girl who sat quietly in the back of the classroom. Instead, she became a passionate participant, asking questions, proposing ideas, and even leading group projects. It was as if a spark had been lit inside her, a spark ignited by her encounter with Zephyr. Every night, without fail, Lily went stargazing. She climbed the hill behind her house, carrying her old telescope and a notebook filled with sketches and calculations. Sometimes she would sit for hours, scanning the sky for anything unusual, a flash of green light, a ripple in the stars, or any sign that Zephyr might still be watching over her. Though she never saw another glow like the one that night, she held on to hope. Hope that somewhere out there, beyond Earth's atmosphere, Zephyr was safe. Her Uncle Sam often joined her on these nights, bringing along a thermos of hot cocoa and a deck chair. He didn't say much, content to let Lily share her thoughts when she felt like talking. One evening, as they sat side by side under a blanket of stars, Sam broke the silence. "You've changed," he said simply, his voice warm but curious. Lily glanced at him, surprised. "What do you mean?" Sam shrugged. "You're not afraid anymore. Not of the unknown, anyway." She smiled faintly, turning her gaze back to the heavens. "I guess I learned that fear doesn't help anyone. Sometimes you just have to take a leap, even if you don't know where you'll land." Sam nodded thoughtfully, sipping his cocoa. "And what about your friend? Do you think you'll see him again?" "I don't know," Lily admitted. "But it doesn't matter. Just knowing he's out there is enough for me." The truth was, Lily carried Zephyr with her everywhere she went. Its presence lingered in her mind, a constant reminder of the courage and kindness she had discovered within herself. She began volunteering at local animal shelters, finding comfort in helping creatures who couldn't speak for themselves. She also started giving talks at school about the importance of trust and understanding between different species, though she always kept her examples vague, avoiding specifics that might raise eyebrows. One day, while scrolling through social media, Lily stumbled upon an article written by Jake Monroe. He had finally published his big scoop, a lengthy piece detailing his investigation into the alien phenomenon. To her relief, the article was vague and speculative, offering little concrete evidence to support his claims. Most readers dismissed it as fiction, chalking it up to Jake's overactive imagination. Still, Lily couldn't help but feel a pang of anger as she read his words. How dare he exploit something so sacred, twisting it into a sensationalized story? Determined to set the record straight, Lily decided to write her own account, not for fame or recognition, but as a personal tribute to Zephyr. She spent weeks crafting her narrative, describing the beauty and intelligence of the creature she had come to love. When she finished, she shared it privately with a few trusted friends and teachers. Their reactions were overwhelmingly positive, encouraging her to pursue writing as a way to inspire others. Inspired by their feedback, Lily began exploring new ways to bridge the gap between humanity and the cosmos. She applied for internships at research facilities focused on astrobiology and xenoscience, eager to learn more about the possibilities of life beyond Earth. Her passion caught the attention of Dr. Ellen Myers, a renowned scientist known for her groundbreaking work in interstellar communication. Impressed by Lily's dedication, Dr. Myers offered her a position on a team studying signals from deep space. It was a dream come true, but Lily knew it wouldn't be easy. The field was complex and demanding, requiring long hours and intense focus. Yet she embraced the challenge wholeheartedly. Driven by the memory of Zephyr and the lessons it had taught her, she often wondered if her work would lead to contact with intelligent extraterrestrial beings someday. If it did, she hoped she could represent humanity with the same compassion and curiosity Zephyr had shown her. As the years passed, Lily's career flourished. She traveled the world, attending conferences and collaborating with experts in various fields. Her name became synonymous with innovation and empathy, qualities that earned her respect among peers and mentors alike. Despite her success, she remained humble, always crediting her achievements to the extraordinary bond she had formed with Zephyr. One evening, during a particularly clear night, Lily found herself back on the hill behind her house. Now in her late 20s, she had grown into a confident, accomplished woman. Yet as she gazed at the stars, she felt the same sense of wonder that had captivated her as a teenager. The universe was vast and mysterious, full of endless possibilities. And though she hadn't seen Zephyr since that fateful day, she believed they were connected in ways science couldn't explain. Suddenly, a streak of green light shot across the sky, brighter and faster than any meteor she had ever seen. Lily gasped, clutching her telescope tightly. The light zigzagged erratically before vanishing into the horizon, leaving behind a faint shimmer. For a moment, she stood frozen, her heart pounding with excitement. Was it real? Or was it just her imagination playing tricks on her? Then, as if in answer, a gentle breeze swept through the trees, carrying with it a familiar warmth. Lily closed her eyes, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. She didn't need proof. She already knew. "Goodbye, Zephyr," she whispered, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Thank you for everything." Turning away from the telescope, she walked back toward the house, her steps lighter than they had been in years. Whatever the future held, she was ready to face it, with courage, curiosity, and an unwavering belief in the power of connection. After all, the stars were always waiting, shining bright with promise and possibility.